Megan,
Good morning, Aaron.
good morning or afternoon, should I say?
Yes, it's morning for me still. I'm still very much in my morning flow,
Nice.
the robe and the 5 minutes late.
You're good. You're good.
So
We love a
somebody
good
really
tardy
raw.
lady.
Thank you for being flexible. How's your morning so far? Or your
It's been
afternoon?
really good. It's been really good. I did some work, took some calls, and now I'm having a nice little meeting with chat with you. So I'm excited for this.
I am too. I appreciate um, just you using your voice and speaking about this. I've been really craving having a conversation about this from the male perspective with the male perspective in real time, just to volley back and forth. We don't really have a plan for this. Um, I just want to navigate our way through it in real time and just have conversations from the heart and be vulnerable, which is why I really appreciate what you share online because I think it's really it's important. Um, and polarity honestly keeps the world going round. So I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. It means a lot. I love people that are forward thinkers. I love people that put themselves out there for you to say, "Hey, let's do a podcast." I love that. I'll always say yes to things like that because it just shows you're getting after it. So, and I appreciate your content too. I haven't watched so much of it, but from the things that I've watched, you seem very authentic, and I can appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I feel the same about you. So thank you for that. It's definitely why we're here. Energy doesn't
Tremendous.
lie.
Mm-mm.
So tell
That's
me a little about, I'd love to just hear what you have to say about where you're at, the work that you do. You work with women, I've
mhm.
gathered. Cool. Can you just share a little about what that looks like on your end, how you got there, and we'll dive in from there.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to start from very early on because that might just be a whole long rant, but I was coaching men for a number of years, certain kinds of men, really successful, entrepreneurial, founder type guys, type A type guys. And so I understood what that kind of person looks, feels, and sounds like, and primarily coaching them on like health, fitness, but also like performance mindset, psychology. And then I randomly just started talking about the job that I also do was working this job on the side, matchmaking job, right? Where I speak to these
Mhm.
kind of guys about dating. So not only do I understand these guys in terms of like what they want out of life, money, purpose, but what they want in a partner that can serve them in that same level. So I feel like I had this information that I was like, there has to be at least one woman on TikTok that would care about what these kind of guys are looking for. Little did I know, thousands of them cared about this. And so I had a lot of women in my DMs asking for help. And I just kind of follow the market. If the market's telling me this video about health and fitness got like 1,000 views, two comments, but this video about what a high value man looks for in a woman got 20,000. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. And it kind of just snowballed. And so now I've been coaching women for almost a year, some guys as well, but it's been fascinating getting to see and hear what women sound like in their intimate thoughts and their views and their goals. It's been an amazing journey.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that. I work with men as well in the golf space. Do you play golf by chance?
No.
Okay. You thought you were like,
I don't.
ah.
No.
So I have a taste of what it's like on the other side of the spectrum as well. And it's so eye-opening. And when you hear how like how much miscommunication, and honestly, it has a lot to do with people just being afraid of being vulnerable and not for lack of desire of being vulnerable. I feel like we all want to have our emotions felt and understood by someone else, but through our past, whether it be childhood or just past relationships, we've all built up this armor of what we think the other, whoever we're interested in dating, whether it's the same sex or opposite sex, we have this armor built up of what we think we have to do and how we think we have to show up. And I'm all for like dissolving all of that synthetic shit. I'll just say all of that stuff
Mm,
that we have like put on and walking in the world with a really vulnerable front without masks um, is what like got me into this work because it took me a while to understand why people wore masks and what the like the nervous system responses were behind it. And I started working with women in that way, the same way you were working with men. And there was so much of like, because I played golf with a lot of men and I have a lot of guy
Mhm.
friends, and it's still different now that I'm really understanding how feminine energy enters the field of a man. I realized that even though I was like friends with a lot of guys, the dynamic is still different when there are no women around.
Mhm.
But I was privy to a lot of like men who let their guards down. They weren't trying to date me. They weren't necessarily trying to get with me. Even in the back of their mind, if their primal brain, the part of us that wants to reproduce still comes online, I was able to see a really vulnerable side of men. And when you can see us all like shooting darts at each other and like really we all just want to be loved and felt, like a really deep fire starts to burn for this work. So I'm grateful to meet you on that plane as well, because it just like it drops a lot of guard when we're both here showing up vulnerably.
100%. And I think that's when the work really starts. When I can come onto a call with a woman and say, hey, listen, like, obviously, I don't want to have anything to do with you sexually or romantically because I have a partner. I'm very happy with that. But I want to just help you open up so you can have that same experience for the rest of your life. That is such a profound thing because a lot of people don't even know what that feels like to be completely open and receptive to the opposite on the polar spectrum. When when I feel like I can let my true self come out, that masculine side of me that just wants to penetrate the world and just give her everything, her as in like the universe,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on. I feel like that's when I can actually do something like effective. And I don't know, and you can kind of talk about this, but from what it looks like to me, from my perspective, when a woman is in that feminine state, it seems like a very similar thing where things can now start moving, the gears are turning, and it's just like there's so much power in that.
Yeah, and something that you said, how you even named like her, but you're talking about just like the feminine in the world, this nurturing, loving aspect of your life that you can sense that can come through a woman in a relationship, in a connection. It can come through a friend, a mother, a sister. I've noticed that a lot of men that I encounter who are conscious, they may not be fully online with awareness, but they're conscious enough. They use that terminology. And from the women's perspective, and this has a lot to do with conditioning and things, but women are so honed in on one specific male physical body, on like one
Mhm.
specific person, where I feel as a lot of men, it's more of this like broad, I want to penetrate the world. I want to do this for her, as in the grand picture. And we are like focused in on one human body, and that limits our capacity to create, to get into that flow, because when we're not receiving what we need biologically from that one source that we have like channeled all of our energy and attention to, it's depleting
Mhm.
us. And so it's this like self-fulfilling cycle. So I wanted to name that because that, for me, like seeing my divine masculine in the world as opposed to in a physical man, was what like really opened up and allowed for a lot of that conditioning to dissolve. um, and I've actually forgotten now what the question was or what the statement was that you led to that, but that was a really powerful identification for me as a woman. And all of the daddy issues, all of the ex-partner issues, all of that stuff combined, what it really boiled down to was that we as women have really been taught unconsciously, subconsciously, to pour all of our energy into a physical human vessel. And the
Mm.
flow of energy and reciprocity, because that is like stifling for anyone. I've felt what it feels like for someone to just focus on me and not have a life of their own, and it's suffocating.
It is.
It's like anything I do isn't going to make you happy enough, but it's also going to make you angry. So now I have this influx of energy coming at me no matter what I do, and it's like it just feels depleting. And feeling that and understanding that's what it feels like from the male perspective was just really because it's not intentional either. We
Mm.
think that we're being vulnerable, we think we're telling you how we feel, but really we're telling you, we're trying to control that masculine energy. Does any of that like strike you or feel? Yeah.
It does. It does. And I want to touch on what you said, how you switch from that focus on a physical, one specific physical being to the world. How does a woman do that? How can you both on one side give that attention and focus and love to a partner, like a monogamous partner, if that's what you want, but at the same time also be able to, use your gift to the whole world.
For me, that was my womb. That was dropping into my womb, because And this is what I've learned a lot from like studying my inner world, being in my own living mystery school, being open in connection with men. Because somewhere in that, even though I did like have that conditioning, I was still able to have, like you said, that platonic connection where I wasn't trying to conquer men because my masculine energy was strong and I didn't realize it. But like I would see a guy that I wanted and I would want to like plant my flag in him, so to speak. And it would be this like game. I just wanted to hunt and chase. And
Mm,
it took me a few rounds of that, and there would be attachments involved, and I would end up with my heart broken. And so, learning through those dynamics and starting to work with my womb, I also like ditched my corporate life, my life in the city, and I built a school bus and went off and frolicked in waterfalls and in the woods for a while. So, like, separated from all of the
nice.
noise. But that, and started working with the moon and dropped into my womb. And that, it almost like my womb became the shield of armor that flipped the polarity because masculine energy was attracting me, which means that like I was attracted to the feminine aspects of men,
Mm,
because I didn't get X, Y, and Z. And I wanted that nourishment and that nurturing aspect, but I needed to give it to myself. I was looking for it outside. And so dropping into my womb, tracking my cycle, there's a lot more in that. But that's really what it was, almost like whatever was like stuck to me, the entity attachments, all of these anxious attachments, and all of those things that we develop. It was like it had to like pull off of me like a leech, right? And
wow.
once I was able to, it like snapped and the polarity totally flipped and I could see things so clearly. And it took like one big final breakup, one big final heartbreak for me to really see how I was, what I was doing unconsciously. So there's a lot to unpack there, but that's the not even polished version, but my shorter answer is womb work and dropping into that, dropping out of that masculine armor. But it's a biological, like deep healing work with our nervous system because all of this is, we can't see it. We might be able to
Mm.
like observe the pattern, but the why do I keep going back? Why do I keep doing this? Those levels are really deep.
I love that. I'm super happy for you that you got there. And it's kind of like when you see, you can't unsee now.
Mm,
So you have so much wisdom and you get to a point where once you know these things and you felt it for yourself and you know the difference between the before and after, you can't help but to start talking about it.
mm-hmm,
And because people can feel how real it is, that's when people start to comment. And a lot of people will be like, no, that doesn't make sense. You're like, it's because when you're wearing glasses and it's very tinted, you're not going to be able to see how bright the sun is, but you kind of take those off for a bit and you're like, whoa,
mm,
you can't, you know, it's there, even if you put it back on. So ignorance is bliss to a certain extent. But I think once you've kind of learned what the other side looks like, you can't go back. One thing I've noticed, not to go off track a lot, and I know you probably have noticed this, to kind of get away from the masculine and feminine just for a second and talk about like awareness. Do you feel like sometimes you have to almost, how can I ask this? Obviously, not everyone can go as deep as you can, right? Into spirituality, into knowing and all that stuff. So when you meet somebody that's, let's say, not quite on that path yet or hasn't gone that deep, do you have to change yourself?
mm,
Or do you try to bring them into it? Like how do you approach that?
mm. I love that question. And for the record, I love going off track. So if we
Nice,
want to take a bunch
nice.
of left and right turns, I'm all for it.
Love it.
Yeah, and that's a hard part because that's part of the conditioning as well. Because I grew up Southern Baptist, so this like evangelical side of like push what you believe on other people, and even from a perspective of service. And women are also, I know men are that provider archetype, but women, a lot of our worth and our value is around how we can like serve a space or keep a space calm. And so when you see someone, and as a seer, as an oracle, you can see and you can hear what they're saying. You can hear them say that they want a better job or they're miserable in their job or this way, X, Y, and Z. And you can like see their level of awareness, their level of consciousness. I can see their demons. I can see their angels. Like I can see so much. So the question that you asked is like it's very alive for me because this was a lot of my
Mm,
work. Being able to see all of that and not give unsolicited advice,
mm,
that is like a demon in and of itself. That part of you that wants to help so badly that it just comes out without the other person asking for the support, which in like male and female relationships, that's a big part too, right? Like that's a big
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so first I had to like I did it a lot. I gave a lot of unsolicited advice. I gave out my opinion for free. I was giving my 2 cents away until I was broke, basically, spiritually,
Facts.
physically, and otherwise. And then I had to be like, it doesn't make sense. This information is so helpful. Why? And then also seeing how that person would react, right? Because
Mm,
sometimes they would like hide it and just be like, thanks for what I didn't ask. Or it would be so, it would like, it would, I would rip their glasses off. And so they would be
mhm.
blinded by the sun and unprepared. And it was like, I was actually hurting them because their eyes, they would be like, I can't see anything now. And so I was actually the cause of their pain. And so it was like that. And I'm like, what is happening? Because I'm like, I'm thinking that this is like the best medicine in the world. Like once you wake up, you're like, everybody wants to know this. And so it's learning how to implement judgment in a
Mm,
way that is medicinal and learning when in your own inner world, in my own inner world, when I could feel that unsolicited advice welling up in my throat and realizing that that was my value, that that
mm,
information that I had, that wisdom that I carried, it was like being like pulled out of me, it was being magnetized out of me to people who didn't want it. And so I had to like really dig into all of these whys. And I work with the moon because this is cyclical energy and it will unveil a lot of these hidden mysteries when we start working with the moon. And so I had to do a few laps, a lot of laps around the moon, figuring out why that was. But ultimately, it was that part of me that needed validation, that part of me that wanted to
mm.
just like that seer in me, that oracle in me wanted that love. And so learning to hold that, not like really feeling when I wanted to give unsolicited advice. And then the other side of that, the divine feminine side. Have you read the book Women Are from Mars, Men Are from Venus?
No, but I put it on my reading list like 2 days ago.
Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus. I'm not sure how I said it. It's good. And it basically talks about like it's along these lines that where men come from and Mars, it's like if you have a problem, solution. That's the most obvious way to help. It's the most obvious way to show love. Like if I'm come home crying because I ran out of gas, the guy's like, I'll go put gas in your car. And she's like, no,
Mhm.
but like I'm sad. And it's like, I just need some love. And the other side with women on Venus, it's like we just offer it's kind of this same concept of how women are. We just like love and we want to talk about feelings and we don't really we're not solution oriented. We're just like the nourishment and the nurturing of that and those concepts coming online. And I was like, okay, this part of me that is just like offering help when it's not asked for, but the heart of it, wanting to nurture it, I had to like really dig in to my why I was doing that, my wounding, and learning to hold that in. And then seeing that it gave space for whoever it was that was providing their just talking, right? They were just wanting to be heard
Mm.
and me holding that while being able to clearly see the demons, the angels, the solutions, the path, remembering that I'm not them. I don't actually know what's beyond that. And learning that, and I just talked about this, I'm leading a 28-day container right now for women called 28 Days of Womb Magic. We talk about the power of awareness. When you can see someone's hurt and not try to fix it, you let them know that they have the power to fix it themselves because we have fixed it ourselves. And that is real medicine. When out trying to reach over and say, I know better than you do for yourself. So I'm going to rip your glasses off so you can see the sun. It's saying,
Mm.
like, the sun eventually called me home and I took my own glasses off. I'm going to stand here and hold the space for you, seeing and knowing that if you asked me for help, I could give you a fire hydrant worth of answers. But until you're ready for that. And so using judgment in a helpful, medicinal way was really my path. And that was a long, like, that's a hard journey of all that I just said. But your question was, I felt like you like pulled that out of my heart. So whatever pulled you to ask that question, keep tugging on that thread.
Hey, dude, that's a beautiful way of articulating it. And I asked it, and that's I think part of my feminine energy is what you just described, being able to feel a room and kind of just follow that path. That's part of my feminine that I've cultivated. Whereas the masculine is that ability to hold that space and be able to just let someone figure those things out on their own, which I have had to do the same thing. I had that same experience where advice to every single person in my life because I've always been that person to try to get better, improve, try to be positive. I convince myself to be an optimistic person, to be a a positive person, whereas I wasn't before. And I don't think it's in our evolution to be positive because our ancestors had to be pessimistic. That's why we're here. But
Hmm.
our world nowadays does not require a pessimistic attitude. In fact, it actually helps a lot to be optimistic. You can be more creative, have more energy, which is probably the prerequisite of getting anything done. And energy comes from the world. It's there all the time. You could just tap into it, which you described very well. I think a couple of things I want to touch on there. Um, there's one aspect of wisdom that is being able to recognize what is happening with someone, being able to just read somebody, what they're saying, but actually what the subtext is and what they're actually saying. That's one. The other aspect, like you said, is being able to just be there and just not throw words out, not throw judgments out, but just kind of hear what they're saying and possibly guide that conversation down a journey where they can eventually find that magic box and open it up and say, hey, you know what I found? And it's like, oh, what did you find? Tell me. But you
Mm,
knew that they were going there.
mm,
And so that's something that I'm really working on cultivating. And it seems like you are as well. And you're guiding people through this journey. You've used the moon, whereas the intersection I've been on, like you're the moon and womb, which is like fascinating to me. For me, it's kind of been I've been so focused on entrepreneurship. And there are so many similarities there where you give unsolicited advice for free, people don't really care. But if you package it in a way that you say, okay, I'm going to invite you for the possibility that you might get this thing. Okay, tell me, can you please tell me?
mm,
And now they're ready for it and it'll hit way harder than if I were to just throw it to them for free.
mm.
And so that was kind of my experience to get to this place. And I guess if you had to give somebody advice, if somebody said, "Hey, look, I have no self-awareness." They're aware at least that they're not aware. And obviously the 28-day retainer that you have would be the best way to do it. But if there was one single thing you could tell somebody to be like, "All right, this is where you start." What advice would you give them there?
To start logging like the thoughts or how they're feeling in alignment with the moon. What you were talking about, how you were like saying we guide people, and if we can see it and not say it, but we're like thinking our thoughts in our head. I've been using the moon as a microphone or a walkie-talkie for people. And the archangels as well. This is not my answer to your question. I want to just touch on a few things that you said first,
Hmm.
and then I'll dive in on a lighter answer for that. But when I observed my tendencies of overextending my advice and learned to pull that
Hmm.
back in my own world, but still the part of my heart who could see the pain, I would have to just hold the pain. If I could see what they were like, where their pain was, and I could feel it, and I'm like, I have to put it somewhere because that's what wants to come out, right? We can feel their pain and we just want to like provide the medicine, but it's not medicinal in that way. So I started learning to communicate it through the moon. And so, like, tossing up my 2 cents to the moon, and then in casual conversation, and I'm going back to this dynamic where we're like talking to someone in real time, I would either just like loop the moon into the conversation and just say, like, oh, if there's had a bad day at work, blame it on the moon. New moon's coming, just blame it on the moon. And just even saying the moon or like bringing moon consciousness into it gets their thoughts going there, and it like plugs a cord from our crown chakra to the moon, and then that frequency and my awareness of whatever their issue or their problem or their pain was, I've already put a sticky note on the moon. And so when their
Hmm.
crown chakra reaches that tether up there, it's like giving them the idea, but allowing them to interpret it through their perspective, through their lens, and morph it into a way that's even better than I could have planned for them. And this aligns with, I'm going a little off topic and then we'll circle back, but how in the male and female like relationship dynamic, how women often want men to do things, but if we gave them the space and just told them like and expressed our desires, they most oftentimes will do something that far exceeds our expectations. Like, you guys are so creative when we are patient and allow the space for that. This is the same thing when we have opinions, and they might be right, they might be spot on, because we can see a lot, like you were saying, you're always wanting to get better and improve, and it like blows my mind that everyone doesn't think like that, but that was one of the big things, was realizing that not everyone does. But just tossing that up to the moon in those conversations, even if later, if they're just like walking, because once they've connected with our energy or my energy, because I work so closely with the moon, it like sticks to them. Our energy is sticky, especially when we hold it in integrity, when we don't reach outside, that like wounded masculine trying to penetrate for conquering, right? I want to be the one who gave you the idea. I want to be the one who helped you get better. And I'm saying that for me because I had that tendency as well. So circling back to your like what I say to someone if I was in passing, I would say observe your thoughts for 28 days. Because meditating is tough. Like that's obviously the best thing because you sit with and process your thoughts, but your mind is a scary fucking place if you haven't sat there. And it'll get discouraged because you're like, I can't sit here for 2 seconds without getting up and running the dishwasher or X, Y, and Z. But the moon, this cycle, that cyclical feminine energy, we all have it and it ebbs and flows. And when we can observe our thoughts over 28 days, I really like to say, like, write down the day of the moon. And I have women do this with their womb cycles as well, but I have men in the golf world do this for their golf game. Like, tell me what your thoughts are in relation to your swing over a 28-day span, because they'll see the rise in like positivity. And then there's this like pessimistic, I suck and I've lost it all. And now I have to go back to the gates of hell and beg for my way back into my swing, my normal flow or my normal
Wow.
feeling state. And so even with like that, it activates cellular memory. The moon is a feminine timekeeping art. So that ancient part of all of us comes online. And it's an instant pattern recognition process. If they can do that, at least take like 4 notes during that 28-day cycle once a week, even that energy will ebb and flow and it will just naturally like the forces that be the powers at will that have a higher form of love and creation than we can conceptualize start to have their hand in and they open our eyes and just like slowly pull down the glasses to let a little more of the light in.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that. I've never done this. I've had moments where I've met women specifically talk to me about the moon, and I'm like, it's always fascinating to me, but I never actually sat down and said, okay, what's the moon looking like right now, and how does that relate to how I feel? Do you find a correlation between the cycles of the moon and typically how people, let's say the men, for example, feel?
Yeah, and you're going to love this, Mr. Entrepreneur Man. You'll notice buying tendencies. You'll notice like when to market certain things, how to launch things,
Wow.
how to advertise. Because I've studied all this for the last 2 years. Even the days of the week, each, and I'm getting a little into this. I'm not really into astrology, so I don't understand the zodiacs, but the moon and my womb have led me into this for business because I use my
Mm.
Kundalini energy in business specifically, but I do business in the 5D, just a totally different way. But even the days of the week, they're ruled by different planets. Monday's ruled by the moon, and how people buy and how people feel about like the feeling state that they're buying from is oriented and dictated by the moon. And then there's 28 days in the moon cycle. It's really like 29 and a half. And sometimes it varies. Like the last moon we just had was like 30 days or something. But that ebb and flow, that rise and fall of energy, it directly correlates to our buying habits. Because with money, we're buying things for validation. We're buying to feel always. And the moon governs emotional state. And so, from an entrepreneurial perspective, and like even Matt, because you were asking about this from men, this is what it basically the moon from new moon to full moon. The new moon is like a reset. It's like resetting your operating system. You get an upgrade and an upgrade on top of that. It's not just a reset. It's like we get more codes, so to speak. And so then through this process, those codes start to come online during the full moon. That's why all the crazies are out and the hospitals go crazy and schools go crazy because all of those new upgrades after that system reset, they're fully online. And most people are not consciously aware of this. So it like, it zaps us. And then
Wow.
from full moon to new moon, we are then once these new codes, and we'll use it in terms of a golf swing just because it's easy to comprehend. So like your golf swing gets all these new cheat codes in the video game. You can now open doors you couldn't before. You can shape shots you couldn't before. You can make putts you couldn't before. The full moon comes. It's the maximum that your nervous system can hold this energy. So from full moon back down to new moon, we are able to observe this new energy that came online. We now have to like discharge old energy, stagnant energy. This can be patterns, connections, relationships, clients, jobs, you name it, things that just don't resonate anymore. And just like even a circuit, an electrical circuit, there's like a load line and then there's the negative line that discharges the energy. The energy has to complete the loop. And the moon is that loop of emotions. So with men, And because it's not as socially acceptable for emotions to fly and do all of these things, a lot of this has been suppressed. But they do observe this like rise in emotions. And sometimes it'll bubble over. And you'll notice a lot of arguments between couples during the
Mm.
full moon, things like that. But when they start observing it, it's like they allow more of that feminine energy in. Even if their left brain is like, okay, I will journal for 28 days about what's going on at work. It can be something unrelated to how they're feeling because it doesn't matter. It's just that it's like connecting with the moon, doing it for 28 days. Oh, this was what I was going to say a second ago. That 28-day cycle, it's 4 weeks of 7 days each. And so those planets will like tug and pull on our emotions as the moon is rising. So there's these different components that are pulling and tugging on us. I want to pause there for a second because I could talk about this forever.
No, this is incredible. I've taken so much notes already, because this is just really interesting to me. Um, and I have a lot of questions. I think where I want to go to is clearly you have a lot of wisdom here. Clearly, you've spent a lot of time here using your intuition, using feedback, and you've made a lot of adjustments, I'm sure, right? The way you probably interact with men and women right now is completely different than how you used to like 10 years ago.
Mm,
How how has it changed now, the way you interact with men and women? I'm maybe more specifically interested in men. It could be both
mhm,
platonically, but romantically as well. Since you have developed this awareness of yourself and tapped into your feminine energy and you know how to utilize both sides of the polarity, how is it different now?
mm. I love that question. The first thing that comes to mind is I don't segment like platonic and romantic relationships anymore. Now, when I connect with a man, obviously, if he's in an engagement or in a connection, there are energetic boundaries set, provided that that person has a clean energy, if they are in integrity
Mm,
in their relation. And so I used to, with men, navigate in the 3D first because I knew that I could feel things, but I didn't know what I was feeling was real. I've been taught to like suppress my intuition, and that part of me was incorrect of like all the things I was feeling because I would feel what men are feeling, but they wouldn't claim it. They would either be in a
mm,
connection or whatever reason they wouldn't want to give me that power because we would be friends, or maybe they wouldn't want to ruin the connection or whatever it was, but they wouldn't claim the energy that was in my field. And so now I'm aware of that. I know what my energy brings to the table. And so anyone who's in my field, I treat the exact same way. You have to show up with some value, or I'm going to be kind. Like, I'm not going to kick you in the face, but I'm not even going to engage unless there is a reason we are here. I believe in soul contracts and connections at like the soul level. And so anyone
mm,
who encounters like you and I being here, there's like a soul level familiarity because I can feel that as soon as I saw your content. And so with someone in real life, I know that they're not in my field for no reason. I don't just
mm,
pass people by chance. I don't believe in coincidences. So that part going into it, I'll know immediately. And I hear there's someone online who talks about this. He's like, men know like almost instantly if like what bucket the woman goes in. If long term, short term, they just want to have sex, whatever. I've always been that way with men. I feel like I have a
mm.
male brain in a feminine nervous system and a feminine body because I know instantly.
Interesting.
So when I meet someone, I know if I'm interested in them or not.
Mm,
Now, that doesn't mean that they can't surprise me and maybe win me over, but I know if I actually want to be in a long term connection with them or not. And so that helps filter. But from there, I know what my energy is doing to them. And I have not yet met a man, now that I'm aware of my superpowers, who can like out sword fight me in the 5D.
mm.
So I go into these connections not as I'm all powerful, I'm better than you, but I know what's going on here. And I know that you probably don't know, not like you individually, but this connection that I'm in. And so I take it from the perspective of like, I just sit back and play.
Mm.
Now because I don't need their validation the way that I used to for my nervous system to settle. I just sit back and I'm like, what do you have to there's a door there. You want to open it? Like I'll just wait. I'll be like, I would love a tea right now. And they're like, I'll make you one. Or, I just
Wow.
allow. I really just allow. And I allow that part of them to either come online or not. And that determines whether or not there's another interaction. And I'm not now trying to reel men in. I used to really love the hunter chase. Like I did. I loved it. I would see like the hottest guy at a party, and I'm like, I will get his number. And not because I wanted to hook up with him. I just wanted the conquest. Like I just wanted
Hmm.
like I wanted to win. Um, and so that's dissolved. And now I'm playing in the 5D. I'm playing in the unseen. And so I know, like, even in that interaction, if they ask for my number, if they want to continue seeing me, I'll say no. I set my boundaries, and I just play. I play in the 5D, because I can, even when they leave, I'll still feel their energy. I feel their higher self come and knock on my door. I know when my energy is in their field. It's a weird answer to your question, but that's a lot of it for me.
It's a great answer. I mean, it sounds like it's more of like an observation as opposed to an expectation. Like
Yeah.
it's less transactional and it's more just like,
Hmm.
let's watch this unfold. And
Yes.
I feel like I live like that as well. When I'm like at my best, I'm just observing. I'm just watching Aaron like do his thing in the world, and I'm kind of just like, oh, that was a really fun moment. Like, good job, bro. Like that landed really well. Or like, you know, yeah, don't do that next time. And it's like, okay. And I think a lot of the stuff that I work with women on is specifically like the fundamentals of what's your self-esteem like? Like, how do you think
Mhm.
of yourself? How do you talk to
Mhm.
yourself? And
Oof.
it's shocking to me
Yeah,
how
I felt that when you said it.
dude, like
Yeah.
I've had a lot of realizations in the past year, and I think both of us are in this position where we're extremely lucky to understand ourselves, right? On one aspect, understand, you understand females, obviously you're a female, but then also understanding the other gender to sometimes an extent where you understand that under gender more than they understand themselves. It's an incredibly powerful position to be in with a lot of responsibility, but with great power, right, comes that responsibility. And so I don't take it lightly, but a couple of things that I've learned is like women, no matter how beautiful, how great everything seems on the surface, sometimes that self-esteem could be so poor.
Mm.
And you can only get as far as how high your self-esteem is. And so one of my clients, for example, we had our call, like the sales call, and I was like trying to figure out like what's the issue here. And it took so much probing, but eventually I just heard I don't feel attractive.
Mm.
And I'm like, how can anybody else find you attractive if you don't find yourself attractive? Simple as that. You can only get what you are already. So my main goal is like, all right, let's work on that. I don't care if anybody else finds you attractive. The main goal right now is I need you to see yourself that way. And the craziest thing happened after whatever. She doesn't remember the last time some guy approached her. Within like 2 calls, she told me that a guy randomly walked up to her at the gym. I'm
Mm.
like, funny how that works. Funny how energy doesn't lie. I want you to talk about 5D because I like that. I've
Mm.
heard about it a bit, and I'm pretty sure I play in the 5D from
Mm.
time to time, but I want to hear what that means for you.
Yeah, you do. You do, definitely. I've been talking with you a little bit. Something I want to say and add to what you said was how you were saying, like, no matter how beautiful the girl is and outgoing and confidently seeming, there can be a low self-esteem there. And that low self-esteem can be hidden and masked in relationship for a long time. And like you were saying, you're in a sales call. This person was meeting with you for this purpose to unveil this. And it took you probing and prodding to like get there. And you're like skilled at this, right? And so imagine some two people that are trying to be liked by the other person. If we have low self-esteem, we're just going to put on what we think they want to see
Hmm.
until we get comfortable in the relationship and we all take our masks off. And there was a video you posted yesterday that I commented on. It was like, we'll talk about why this isn't all that men want. And then someone replied to my comment and was like, coming from a woman. And I was like, yeah, I know you better than you do.
Pretty much.
It fits perfectly.
Pretty much.
Because, and that is true to an extent if there is polarity in that, because that's where it gets lost. A lot of women see that and they're like, oh, if I just am home, if I'm just dressed up, if I'm just cleaning, if I'm just doing all the dishes and doing all these things, then he'll love me. And then that's how
Mm.
so many marriages are the way that they are right now, because of lacking polarity. But Well, and that takes us right into 5D, because that, and what we were talking about earlier, that like, that I don't have to explain this to you because I know you felt it, feeling suffocated in a relationship, because it's like all of their plugs to like turn on their lights are plugged into you. It's like when
Hmm.
you're their main power source, it's just exhausting because we can't give someone else life force to power and animate their vessel. It's because we
Mm.
are working on connecting to our life force and using it for our mission and our destiny. And when two people come together in that dynamic, that polarity, we are supposed to like feed life force and create new life, not always literally, but create new universes together, which requires two life force power sources. So when someone comes and someone plugs in, the feminine penetrates the masculine to siphon that life force, or vice versa. It happens both ways unconsciously. It's creating this negative, like black hole vortex type of whatever we're seeing out there right now, where
Mm.
nobody's happy, everyone's hiding their desires. Men and women are cheating, and there's bringing shame into their relationships, but they're staying together because it's the noble thing to do. X, Y, and Z. Like that's the cause is for that lack of polarity. But the 5D man, the like telepathic connections and working with the moon is a frequency for telepath. It's a lot of things, but it's a frequency for telepathic communication. Our moon is one of Jupiter's moons. Came a long time ago. I've had past life memories, like remembering the land before the moon. But Jupiter is this like really mystical, like shamanic energy. And so we have Jupiter's moon as a tool for, it's like a time capsule of our subconscious memory of, and I don't know how much of this you believe in, whatever, but I'm just going to dive in to
Mhm.
make it make sense, at least the way that I'm explaining it. The moon helps us remember those ancient codes, those lifetimes on earth before the patriarchy, before all of these, but it wasn't perfect then either. And so we're like piecing it all together now to build this garden on Eden, or Garden of Eden here on our earth now, where polarity exists, feminine and masculine dynamics work in relation with one another in the way that we're designed. And the moon like holds codes for that remembrance, for that subconscious memory to be unlocked, for us to heal our nervous systems from the trauma, both this lifetime and these relationships in past lifetimes. And so I say all of that to say this: the moon is a frequency that we as humans can communicate through. So the 5D is like telepathic communication. It's our astral bodies. So the part of us, like when we sleep and our consciousness goes offline, it's somewhere, it's floating around somewhere. And it's happening during the day too, which is why like fully embodied feminines need more rest, because we are doing more in the
Mm.
5D, and masculines are like built to build in the 3D, to do more in the 3D. And when we, the feminines, are that oracular guiding light, because we can see into the future. I know like back in the day, armies used to rely on women's intuition to know where people were hiding. And so when men learn to revere and respect and support that oracular nature, we work really well in tandem together, because we can see what's coming and the masculine can see what's real, because I can't always see what's real. And that's been a big thing. And so the reason I brought the moon into all of that is because that frequency is available to all. It's available for distortion, for higher forces that want us to buy things that we don't need. They want to market to us. They want us to feel like dependent on an external source, the moon's frequency. And this is why a lot of people are like, oh, the moon is bad, or the moon, whatever. No, it's just hijacked. Like the
Mm.
frequency gets hijacked um, with money too. And earlier when I was saying the like entrepreneurial benefits of the moon, I like to call it moony now. It's not money for me anymore. It's moony, because it's tied to emotions.
Nice.
And so like tracking the moon in relation with like people's buying habits or your own buying habits is a really beneficial practice. But that the moon provides a space for telepathic communication, a frequency for us to learn and remember. And then we can connect. It's like once you start working with a rover, you meet on the rover app and you really like each other, and then you get offline off of rover, and then you just start texting back and forth, and they watch your dog that way. The moon is like training wheels for telepathic communication. And I have
Mm.
sent messages directly to masculines that I've been in connection with romantically. And later that day, I got your message from the moon. here, like da 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 da. And I was like, what the hell? Like, okay,
Wow.
it really works. And so I'll stop there for a second because that's a lot. But let's dive into the 5D. I guess what kind of questions or where like specifically?
I think it was important for me to hear like you put words to it because I think we're all in it whether we like it or not. And the more you're conscious of something, the maybe the more fun or the less stress there is involved because I think a lot of stress comes from like the unknowing and like there's a path, but when you don't feel like you're on the path, it's like it sucks. You know what I mean? Like alignment and congruency, we thrive on that as humans. And when there's incongruencies in what we want versus what we see in front of us, like that's not a great feeling. So just hearing you put those into words was great. And the whole thing about intuition, like as a man, when I really started to realize the power of a woman and the beauty that they hold and like everything that they can provide, I have so much more reverence for them, like incredible reverence. Whereas I think people that don't, they just don't understand. And you can't judge anybody because everybody's where they're at because of their history or their lack of pursuit in this like field of knowledge. But quick example of the whole intuition thing yesterday. I was with my girlfriend. It was her birthday yesterday. And so we had a great time, went to some teppanyaki or whatever. We were going to this lounge afterwards. It was an idea that we both had. And I'm not the kind of person that just always say, hey, we're going to do this because I understand how much of a feeler a woman is. And my girl is very feminine. So I just want her to feel good. And sometimes that could just be as simple as sitting in the car and talking. Sometimes it could be as wild as going to a club with a lot of stimulation under the influence of whatever. So we went to this lounge and she's like, hey, can we just check it out? I'm like, sure. I walked in there and I told the guy, yeah, table for two, because I'm in the physical. And she's like, I don't have a good feeling or good energy. I'm
Mm,
like, okay, say no more. We're gonna leave. And so
mm,
that's the power that I think a feminine woman or the feminine energy holds. And I think you're so right. If a man could
mm,
just be present, like know what he wants, but also let that energy guide him, there's a power that you don't get individually, right? So I really like that you said that.
mm,
I will definitely be much more conscious of the moon and the cycles there and use it to my advantage if I can.
mm,
But just to be aware of it, I think is so important. How how can I utilize the 5D? How can people
mm.
utilize the 5D versus not utilizing it, I guess?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I want to reflect on that you said when you were talking about um, like when we can sense another path or like the unknown is scary. There's this idea that like the fifth dimensional space is empty, that it's like nothing, and that empty space is void space, but there's something there. There's ether, there is energy there. And so when we are not in alignment with the right path, the unknown is putting pressure on us because the unknown is what we actually want. And what we
Mm,
want is just in that liminal unconscious space, and we're magnetizing it, we're calling it in. And so we're like, it's basically like we're pulling in wind on our skin and it's like pushing on us in our in our nervous system, but we can't see it because we think that, I mean, we can see what we can see, and we can see that there's air in front of me and there's nothing, there's not hands pushing on my body right now, but my nervous system feels like an elephant standing on it. And that like the concept of like we don't know the difference of being chased by a lion and, you know, being late for work, that concept, even just the awareness that like there is substance in the areas that we can't see, and it's energy wanting to like penetrate our field to then manifest those things that we want. So that level, like when I really grasped that, it made me feel less crazy for the way that I felt and couldn't explain the unconscious parts of all of it. And the other piece, especially like with your dynamic in that example that you used, which is beautiful, by the way, just like anytime a man just says okay and yes to anything that a woman is feeling, it like heals a part of all of us. So thank you for that.
mm,
And it can feel as a man like it's here and there and it's unpredictable. It's actually incredibly predictable. So you're and you are in a connection. Her cycle her menstrual cycle, even if like women don't have their flow anymore, like women that are through menopause or have had hysterectomies, whatever it is, we still have our primary cycle, whereas yours is that 24-hour solar cycle. Your energy resets every day for the most part. You still ebb and flow with the moon. We're primarily ruled and governed by our menstrual flow, both by the moon, like the collective is ruled by the moon, but individually, we each have our own cycle that's separate from the moon. And so, a token for men, and if you do still talk with men, observing and being the observer of your woman's cycle, of your girl's cycle, like when she bleeds, when she starts her bleed is day one. And then from there, these are these 4 seasons. And this answers the question of like how to get more in touch with the 5D2. Pattern recognition is the best way because
Mm.
energy that's wanting to shape us and help us reach our goals is going to show us through patterns and through the cycles of where we're leaking our energy out. That was a little bit of a side note, but when we observe, like I would be curious of where she was at in her cycle yesterday when she was feeling like, something's not here. Because there's a good
Mm.
chance if you were to just observe over about 3 cycles, you'll be able to anticipate her needs on an even deeper, more intuitive level. And how you're saying you're not always the one that's like, well, let's go here, let's do this, because you know she's feel based. It gives you more of a compass of how her inner world, because she's always evolving and like seeing beyond what we can see. But for a masculine, have that compass is invaluable. And just to basically know what to expect, because she won't, it will feel chaotic. It feels chaotic for us. I track my
Mm.
cycle and I help women track their cycle, and it feels chaotic as hell for me. And so when I'm like getting knocked out by some force that I can't see or some, demon or whatever I'm playing with in the playground that day, for a masculine, and I'm just putting myself in this perspective, there were a masculine in my life that knew where I was at in my cycle and could anticipate either my physical needs or see that I'm spiraling out and say, hey, like it's going to pass. Let's do this or whatever. Like that is connection in the 5D because you're reaching beyond what she has the capacity to even communicate. And this is
Mm.
where a lot of relationships, men are just like, tell me what you need. And we're like, we can't. Like, I literally can't. I don't know what I need until I can
Mm.
reflect back. And by the time I'm reflecting back, I'm mad at you for not knowing what I needed.
That's so
So,
good.
yeah, and it's so
That's so
true. And
good.
it's so simple. And it's honestly so sweet and pure. But
Mm.
it just, when your emotions are involved and there's stress at work and there's all this stress and built up tension, we end up throwing it at each other because we don't have a way to fix it because it's all in the 5D. It's all this unknown space. So that is honestly the best way because that pattern recognition, and even if it's not in alignment with the moon, just observing over about a 28 to 30 day span of what patterns are showing up in your life because the 5D talks to us through our experience. Nothing is a coincidence, right? Everything is perfectly ordained on time in alignment with what we have the capacity to see with our third eye. But the other thing too would be starting to work with, and this is where it gets a little woo woo, and men are a little less eager to do this part than women, I've noticed. It's calling like a circle of protection around you and
Mm.
protecting your physical biofield. There was a woman, I think her name's Sabrina Wallace, that's been popping up on my For You page recently. She's been deep into like, just deep into the work. She like helped program the internet. And she said something that clicked to me. Our biofield is a body part. Like this auric field around us, 6 feet in every direction, 6 feet above, below, and 6 feet in every direction, which makes COVID make sense because COVID was a
Yeah.
spiritual thing, right? And
Hmm.
so this biofield is a body part. And earlier, when I was talking about that moon frequency can be used for distortion, they use the energy in our biofield to route Wi-Fi, to route Bluetooth. Like our human energy is being used by higher forces against our will. Now we are sovereign. So the moment we dissolve that, the moment that we say no more, that we call our energy back, that we form a field of protection around our auric field, those energies in the 5D, they must observe free will. But most of us don't even know that's happening to use our free will to stop it. And so when we feel drained for no reason, when we feel irritated, angry, we might have a reason in our physical world, but the amount of anger we feel may go beyond the fact that we spilled our drink. And we're like, well, that doesn't quite add up. What's going on there? Doesn't feel
Mm.
like me. All this Epstein shit, it's all just, it's It's keeping people in loops. And so using our free will, the power of our command center, our voice, to say, I form a circle of protection around me, a ball of fire 6 feet above me, 6 feet below me, and 6 feet around me in every direction. I call in the angels of the four corners to guard the four primary directional gates. So only energy of the highest form of love can enter and exit. And that's keeping ourselves in integrity too, that we're not spraying, anything other than love out of our field and leaking energy out. So that's probably the biggest thing, because that's what will start to make the 5D and the 3D flirt and connect more, is containing the energy in our biofield, because it's being fucked with every moment of every day, especially when you find someone and like there's real love, when there's like a
Mm.
connection between a divine feminine and divine masculine. That's what they want the least. That's the last thing that can happen, because when couples start getting together and thriving in this power, it avalanches up and the powers can no longer have power over the people. I just got deep and a little conspiracyist, but that's where I'm at.
I mean, that's very good. Um, I got so many goosebumps throughout this
Mm,
conversation. And by the way, I'm free to continue talking if you're free as
same.
well.
Yeah. Cool.
Um, I also think that there are no coincidences, and I do believe in, like, I think COVID really revealed a lot of people. It revealed, I guess, people's levels of self-awareness and sovereignty in their own lives, in their own minds. And so it was a good filter for me to see, all right, these are the people that I guess I want to spend more time with, and these are the people that are just judging me because I didn't do
Hmm.
a experimental thing.
You didn't comply.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was crazy, the forces like from every single direction and the judgment. And it doesn't come from them, it comes from somewhere else. And they are being penetrated because they don't have this field of protection, and they have this lack of risk-taking behavior. And I think I'm lucky that I've always been a risk taker and I've
Mhm.
always done things that are different from everybody else. When I was in grade 4, I specifically got the most weirdest jacket just so people would know that I'm not just going to follow everybody else. It was like a jacket with a big zipper like this big.
Nice. That's really
So
cool.
weird. But I'm like, dude, I don't want to be like everybody else. And I think that
Uh,
has taken me to the point where I'm making content specifically for women. And there are probably people that are like, dude, what is this guy talking about? Relationships, this and that. But it's like, when you know you're providing a service, when you know you're helping even one person feel something and improve their quality of life in even a small specific way, it gives you like this unlimited energy that is just like ever flowing. It's like you live beside a waterfall that's just always running. And so Rumi talks about when you meditate, it's like tapping into that universal flow of energy. And I think just saying something as simple as like, yes, this is around me, this energy force is around me. I do definitely feel like that is a protection mechanism,
mhm.
because even when you talk about self-esteem and we talk about how somebody could feel good about themselves in their life, it's as simple as the inner speaking that you have with yourself. And if you put that transcript, I used to be an actor for many years, so I see a lot of things as like a movie, and like I'm a director and I'm like an actor and I'm playing
Mhm.
these roles. If you actually take the transcript and the screenplay of your mind, of your thoughts, put it on paper, I print it out to you, and it's 10,000 pages, all your thoughts for the day. And if we were to dissect that, you were to ask ChatGPT to give me a summary. How positive is this person? It would give you a number. And so when people understand that they have the power to literally rewrite that screenplay starting today, it's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but it's possible. There is a sense of relief, and the other side of it, when you've actually corrected or adjusted the identity and the thought patterns, everything becomes a different thing.
Mm.
Things become easier because if you could think the way your higher self thinks, like you're already living that life now. Whether you have the material goods or not, you are in the feeling of, I have everything I've ever wanted. Thank you, God. Thank you, whoever, for making this happen. This the sense of like receivership that happens is so beautiful. And so that's one thing that I speak with my community members and my clients about too. One of my members in the community said the other day, I just can't wait to have a husband and a son or a daughter so I can just feel good. And I'm
Hmm.
like, can I ask you what it would feel like to already have that? And she explored it. Her voice completely changed. I can
Uh-huh.
feel her energy changing. And I'm like, that is the prerequisite, honey. Let's stay there. Let's keep that again. Tell me more about that. And if people can spend more time in those thoughts, which then dictate the emotions, which then dictate the patterns and the behaviors, all you're doing is planting a seed into somebody else and they can nourish it and they can water it. Give them the power to do that.
Yeah. And that protecting that field, how you were saying, if we were to like write down everyone's thoughts for the day, like a, like a playbook or like a script, a lot of those negative thoughts or the thoughts that are pulling down on their emotional levels, those thoughts do not belong to them. It's energy from the
Mm,
outside coming into their channel, passing through their body. Because these energies, these unseen energies, they want to be witnessed. There's a lot of suppressed emotion. Let's even just think about the last like 1,000 years, how much war has happened, how much suppression of pain that no one has ever gotten to express. When those people leave the earth, those emotions stay here. And when we are energetically open, and most women are, and a lot of men are, and don't know it, we are just giant receptors and magnets for all of those emotions flying around in the sky, all those suppressed, unexpressed emotions. So when we open our heart and when we are compassionate, when we're understanding, when we're loving, those energies see that light in us and they're like, oh, finally someone that can understand me. And so this deep sadness that somebody never got to process thousands of years ago is trekking through the universe through this blackness. They see a light and it's, oh, let me get that. There's no protection around us. And so, and if I, the body that magnetizes this energy from across the cosmos, if I am sad about something in my real life, if I don't have a husband, if I don't have kids, and I want that so deeply, and that energy hits me, I'm gonna go, oh, I can never have a husband and a kid because I like assign the emotion that came into my
mm,
field that wanted to be witnessed. And this goes back to the beginning of that conversation where when we can observe and witness someone else's pain and not reach out and try to fix it, it holds space for it. So that same thing, like this energy wants to be witnessed and pass. And we hear like people talk about the emotional wave or the emotional storm that comes through a woman. This is what it
mm,
is. It's like our heart, and it usually comes at a time like after a big, juicy, heart opening something. Women get really sad after sex, right? We're really open and vulnerable in the 5D after sex,
mm,
and that attracts a lot of these energies. And so that energy comes and it attaches to me. If I don't have discernment of energies, if I don't have protection, first off, it can just come straight into my heart. It's going to pass through my heart chakra. Our chakras are open on the front and the back. It's going to come straight through. And I've been trained to internalize that feeling. Oh, now I'm sad. Now I'm sad because I don't have a husband and a kid. And that keeps me in these lower density fields and prevents me, like you were saying, from even manifesting that whatsoever. So that like protective field is the first layer because then it's discerning energies because we still have leaks and these energies they've been picking locks of doors for a long time, so these energies know how to pick locks once we start forming fields of protection, so we just have to get smarter every day. And so a lot of that work is not claiming energy that's not ours. Now that's all of that being said, those energies, it's not created or destroyed. The energy has to be transmuted. So if there's sadness, and there's a lot of it floating around, I've learned one of my roles is to be a compassionate witness and a vessel for that energy to flow in. And as
mm,
confident as I am and whatever my self esteem is, I'm still going to have days and weeks where I cannot stop crying. And I feel so sad. It is my job and my human vessel to discern that that energy is not mine and just to allow it
mm.
to pass, to not take it out on people in my life as best in my ability, right? If there are like, as long as I've been clear in my boundary setting. And so that's why this like protective layer um, around our field is really invaluable because we are just naturally going to feel our own emotions, and those are powerful enough when we start taking on other things. And this isn't even talking about being in connection with other people because once we're connected and there's like a tether, like
Mhm.
with you and your partner, there's a tether there, and you and your friends and our family members. Now we have a direct, it's like having someone's phone number. So now if I'm
Yeah.
sad and I don't want to be sad because I don't know how to process that sadness, well, I'm just going to send it to you and make you
Mm,
feel it. And women are really good at this. And a lot of women like project their unhappiness in the 5D towards men. and don't realize they're projecting that, and you guys can feel it. And it like this shared space that we each create, it's like they go in and they just like stink up the place. And no offense to women watching this, but it's what happens in the 5D. And then you guys will come back to this just energetic shared space, and you're like, okay, what, the temperature has changed, what's happening? And no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. And it's like, fuck, okay. And so you can
Yes.
just see how it's like so much distortion just without this like one layer of protection, of protecting the energy both in and out, because it keeps us in check of our emotions too. So we're not projecting through connections and vice versa.
I heard a definition of emotional intelligence the other day that really made me like think about that for a second. And it is pretty much what you're saying. It's like emotional intelligence is processing your emotion to the very end of its extent before you give it to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Just letting yourself go through the wave, swim in it, no matter what it makes you feel. Process it. Okay, interesting. Let's carry on. Versus someone that cannot take it, cannot tolerate it. They have that and then immediately, okay, what's the quickest way to get this out of here? And again,
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame people like that, but I think it's a good feeling to know that you can process different emotions. And I can vividly remember certain moments of my life where I've had emotions. Like there was one moment, one of the only moments I felt incredibly hopeless. I was in Peru a couple of years back. It was like a friend's bachelor party, and there was a period in time we got to this bad area, and I don't want to give you the whole story, but there was a 30-minute period of my life where I felt incredibly hopeless.
Mm.
I was in a taxi, and the last thing I wanted to do was give that feeling to anybody. I was just like, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to feel this again, but we need to sit here. We need to practice this for a bit.
Mm.
And I had faith in the moment that everything would work out, even though it seemed like so ridiculous for me to even have faith in that moment. I was just like, okay, this is hopelessness. Wow, this is an insane feeling to experience. And I don't even want to put a judgment on good or bad, but it was just like, dang, like, and I
Mm-hmm.
just imagine people that live in that. I don't know how you could do it. Like at that point, taking your own life makes sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing about the energies is like, I do believe that they're feelers. I feel like you are a feeler. I feel like I'm a feeler to a certain extent. And I remember one moment specifically, I was in Amsterdam by myself and I had done some truffles right that day. It was a good day. It was fun. And I think that gets you a little bit more open to those energies too. And I sat on a train to go from Amsterdam to Rotterdam and I sat in this chair and I immediately felt this like negative, like
Mm-hmm.
really strong, bad energy. And I'm like, I couldn't even sit there. I had to move and I moved like 3 seats down and I felt incredibly better. And I'm like,
Amazing.
whoa, that's power. And if someone doesn't know that something else exists that you can see,
Uh-huh.
that you can't see, then they just let themselves go from moment to moment and place to place that is just keeping them so locked in
Yeah.
that bad feeling. So,
Yeah. Like you knew you're like, I'm just gonna get up and go sit over there, and you felt better. Where someone who doesn't have the awareness of the 5D, they would keep sitting there and then
mm.
internalizing that and be like, oh, this is me. And then the stories, it like attaches to stories in our mind.
And
Um,
that's another thing because people, we thrive on a completion of a story. Like you talk about loops, open
yeah.
loops, close. We need to close loops. And most of the time, we don't have the wherewithal to know that you can actually close the loop in your favor as opposed to close the loop that's not in your favor. So, oh, I haven't been in a relationship for 6 years, therefore I am unworthy of being in a relationship. People don't walk up to me and ask me out, therefore I'm not attractive, right? We close
Mhm.
these loops that become a self-fulfilling prophecy because that
Yeah.
energy is so loud. And
Yeah.
questioning your beliefs at all times, I think, is an important trait. So when you can close the loop in your favor, even if it sounds ridiculous at first, like I I could have assumed that you asked me to be on this podcast so that you can just roast me. And I would have
Right.
come on this podcast with a different interpretation of you, with a different idea of what I'm going to talk about. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh, she seems like a really cool person who just wants to have a conversation. Let's see where this goes. And that brings a whole different conversation out. So
It
you
does.
just be your best friend, right?
Yeah. And something that we were talking about when you were in the car and that like existential hopelessness. And you were saying how it makes sense, how like people like why you'd want to take your own life. I want to call out, I've been there in that where it's like the logical side of my brain is like, this will not get any better. It makes the most sense. Like our best option in this moment is to choose reincarnation. Obviously, I
Mm.
didn't. I did in like a death and rebirth of that version of myself kind of way. But it was like this very logical voice was like, that's the best option. There is no more hope. There's no more magic tricks up your sleeve. And it was just like, I've been there a few times. And it's right around this time of year each time too.
Mm.
So thank you for sharing that. The other part that I really want to like zoom in on because I feel like it's important for women to be aware of this and learn from men in this way. Even though I do believe men have been maybe taught not how to process their emotions the best way, even though you're still really intelligent and can figure it out. But men are a lot better at sitting in those emotions and not spraying them. And I think a lot of times when men go quiet, when you're in that dating phase, you're in that getting to know each other phase and there's some silence, men withdraw their energy. It's because they're taking that space. They don't want to project that negativity into the shared connection. Whereas women, we think that projecting those emotions before we've processed them, because they're like raging in us, we think that that's vulnerability. And that part, how you're
Mm.
saying, like, let that emotion pass. With that being said, the nervous system's capacity is what allows someone to sit and hold it, or if it bursts out. And those who have had more traumatic experiences, their nervous system is less stable and they're more magnetic to bigger, more volatile energies. So it's like this machine, once we can grab it, we become really incredibly powerful seers, intuitives, psychics, shamans, etc. But we're also the ones who are going to be like flipping tables because when that energy gets a hold of our nervous system, there's so much trauma and there's like real fear for our lives that it's like it needs to protect. And so I really love that you were saying you sat in that because I believe that that's when we may feel ignored in connection or like a masculine doesn't care or we're not a priority. It really is that there's a lot of big emotions going on and you're letting it pass. Would you say that that's true in like in an integral connection, not where people are trying to get things from one another, but in a real scenario?
Absolutely. I think many women underestimate how many emotions men feel in a relationship, but don't express it.
Mm.
Where, some men think that if we express it, maybe it won't work. And from my own personal feedback, there's a level of expression that I can do that I feel like is beneficial for the relationship. And then there's a certain point where it becomes detrimental. And so there's always this fine line where I am feeling, I do have feelings, but this feeling is not going to work. This is not a feeling that I want to share mutually with you. I want to process this and then I want to bring the best of that feeling to you. I want to let that flower grow and give you this flower as opposed to just giving you the seed and expecting you to water that seed, if that makes sense.
It is. And like as women, the part of us that has been conditioned, we're like, but we want to help you water it. We don't want you to
Mm-hmm.
be alone while you're watering it. And so we like also sometimes inject ourselves into that process because we think we have the answers. We
Mm-hmm.
can see, but if we're doing that work for you, that's where that like the motherly instinct comes in. And it's like you don't want to be mothered during that process. Like you guys know what to do. You know how to calm your nervous system. And on the other side, if you don't, we should, as the other side of that connection, just take space and not necessarily want to indulge with someone who can't manage their own emotions. But this is just this like wheel of misunderstanding. And a lot of it is based off of that conditioning, like we talked about in the very beginning of this, of like reaching outside of our own field um, to help others when we're wanting to help the masculine, that's the very thing that we're wanting from them in the first place. And so we're flopping that polarity and that rubber band of polarity is just like got so much slack as limp
Yes, and limp is
whiskey
not good.
polarity.
Limp is not good. I think there's another quote that I heard recently that's really good. It's like happiness cannot be given or received. And
That's
I
so
like
powerful. Oh my
it
God.
is
It's so simple, but that's so powerful.
holy shit, how powerful is that? It's like
Whoa.
I can bring about a environment in which your happiness can grow through yourself, but I cannot give you that happiness. So I think for me, the way I enter into a relationship, or even just with women, period, how can I make this a safe, secure environment for you to just be the most feminine and most happiest little girl version of yourself? And I
Mm.
think if I could teach men one thing, it would be that make sure she feels comfortable. And a girl cannot have fun until she's at that state. And one
Yeah.
of my favorite quotes is girls just want to have fun, but there are prerequisite steps you need to get for them to have
Yeah.
that fun.
Yeah. I'm curious. I want to just poke a little more on what you've seen as an intuitive man, as a seer, both working with men and women. What is like the most common things you see with the women you meet with, that are reaching for connection, that are longing for true, like I'll say provider, secure man, not in a paying for everything just for the sake of it, but I genuinely mean that energy of like they want to do that, what you just said, because that's a real provider, providing that safe space and what it entails, right? Because that does mean a 3D space at times. But I'd love to just hear what you've noticed a reoccurring theme of or themes in your meeting with women.
First of all, I want to say that it's not their fault. Um, it's not their fault, but they have the power to adjust it, like you have as well, right? It's not things that necessarily you see. I mean, superficial answers I can give, or sorry, problem. Let's start with the problem first. Okay. A lot of women, especially the successful ones, because I think the past couple of generations of women have been incredibly successful, even more so than men in terms of like financial security, getting further in the workplace and all that. I think those same qualities and characteristics that it takes for you to secure a job or secure a raise or buy a house or whatever are not the same qualities and characteristics that are going to help you attract the kind of man that you want. Because a man like that wants to provide that doesn't want to be with a woman that acts like him. I cannot make a woman feel secure and calm and adored if she has that same mindset of like, we're gonna make this happen. We're gonna do this. We're gonna plan 7 p.m. be there. It's like, dude, like you're my friend at that point.
Yeah.
Like I would rather just play cards with you than love you and adore you like you're just my
Mm.
precious little thing. Whereas when a woman says, I just want to feel small, like there's a reason why women like tall men because they just want to feel protected and small. But you can actually do that as a woman, no matter how small or big you are. I've met women that are 6'2" that are so incredibly feminine that I just want to hold them and cuddle
Mm.
them and play with their hair because they've understood that the side of them that makes men step up is a side of them that maybe they're afraid to live in because it's a scary feeling to be in if you don't have the experience of being there.
Mm.
I had a client one time, and I've learned everything that I've learned is from either feedback or a woman actually directly telling me this. And so one of my clients, really attractive, really smart, successful, wants to understand how to date better. And she wanted to feel feminine. And we uncovered the layers as to why she wasn't feeling that. She ultimately expressed that it's a scary feeling to allow that to come because now when you're more open to receiving, you're more vulnerable to being penetrated and sometimes by a negative energy. Makes complete sense. So the advice that I gave her, and it kind of came in the moment, but I felt it was the right thing to say was this field that you have, this femininity that you want to feel is protected by this like prison, like these metal bars around you, right? You have the key. The
Mm.
key is you have it. Now, how do you know when to let that cage unlock? When you trust your intuition, you will want to give that key to the man. You will give that key to him. It's almost like you have a spare now. So you should have the ability to be able to open it yourself, but you should also feel really good to give that key to him and say, babe, like, yeah, you make me feel safe and protected enough to open this. And once that's open, then that polarity and that dynamic is, it's like, I think that is a very good relationship.
Mm.
One aspect of it, at least.
That's beautiful. I really love the analogy of like there's this cage around you because like when I was closing my eyes, I could like see a past version where I kept that inner child. It's like we lock our inner child up to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
our inner masculine, the only way that we have learned from the world that our inner child is safe is to keep them locked up inside. That's the
Yeah.
only way they're protected. And
Mm-hmm.
so that softens that too. But I love that visual because I could feel not so much anymore. My inner child like runs the show now. It took a lot of work. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I now experience polarity in every single relationship and connection. And it's such a
Yes.
pure, innocent thing. It's I work a lot with Kundalini energy, which is that sexual life force, but it's that sexual life force beyond the sacral chakra. It's made its way up to the heart, to the third eye, to the crown to create
Mm.
universes with a higher form of love available. And so now I can do that with every male connection I have, even if it's not romantic, even if we don't want to spend our lives together or go in a closet somewhere and bang it out, like whatever that is, the desire is, it creates this purity and being able to feel that past version of myself that kept that femininity, that like little girl inside of me locked up. I just like, oh, it took me right in my heart. So thank you for that. That was really beautiful. And it was
I love
sweet.
it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, for me, I feel like a boy, honestly. I feel like the older I get, the younger I feel.
Yeah, it's so fun. But now we have
And you
money and we
probably,
can do things.
dude, it's incredible. Probably not the safest thing, but it's good. It's uh I would say like if you can just maybe just watch like 2 3 year olds play a boy and a girl and just watch that what does that look like it's no expectations. A girl falls down, she gets a boo-boo, the guy's like okay, pats her on the knee, maybe kisses it, and she's all better. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be that complicated. And I think what I hear from women a lot is if they do meet men, they are not like masculine. So I actually started this journey that I started was like, I want to help men become the most optimal versions of themselves. And I found that the last thing that I had touched on was this relationship side that I've always thought was the most important thing. But when I started talking about this, my audience just became women. And so for now, the mission that I'm on is this. But eventually, one of the things that I really want to cover is speaking to the men to be like, listen, guys, like I've went and I've spoken to them. Let's try to figure some of these things out together because I know the answers now for the most part. Like, stop being so logical all the time. Let them have fun. Stop always picking their brains. Stop trying to make yourself look like the best, like like the best guy or the best option. No, just be yourself, and she will choose you. And if she doesn't choose you, she's not the one, bro. Like that's not the one for you because I really do believe she's got to choose you. And I do believe, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do really think that the girl's got to like the guy a little bit more.
It's a fun convert. It's a fun dynamic.
I'm
It's a
not saying he
challenge.
doesn't have to like her. Like I'm saying, like it's got to be to the point where she's got to like you so much that like she's gonna have the patience to watch you grow in the process too. Because you're not gonna be a perfect partner, and she's not gonna be either. And that's why I think you as a man got to be really attracted to her too in many ways because if you're just with her just to be with her and then you get into an argument, it's like you're not going to fight for it if you don't really, really want her in every aspect of who she is, personality wise, intangible wise, but also how she looks, right? And so
Mhm.
one of the things that I talk about with women as well is like, okay, the spiritual side is the quality of your life and how you feel with the person. That's the most important thing, the connection there. But also, it doesn't hurt to look your best because when you look your best too, take care of yourself, go to the gym. That is, you're playing for the 3D because men are into 3D. So you're making it just better overall for everybody. Helps with the self esteem and other aspects as well. But what do you think about that?
I love everything that you're talking about. And by the way, there will likely be a lot of men that watch this because I'll share it with the golf audience. So thank you for sharing what you said about that because that will land well with that audience. But when you were saying that for her to like him a little more, what I've learned, and this is where when I commented on your video yesterday of like there's a little more that men want, but I truly think that each person needs, this sounds so cliche, but they need to love themselves more than the other person. Like at
Oh
every
yeah.
single point, we need to be able to walk away. And because I was like processing that as you were saying it, because I don't know where I fall on that spectrum, but if at any point, if like we pass that on over to the other person, it like instantly imbalances polarity because we're depending on that for the source of happiness. But um the work that I do with women, and this is much more in the 5D and in the spiritual concept, but basically it operates off of resonance and how you're saying you're intuitive, you're a feeler, you've always been able to see, and your girl now is really intuitive. Like she is a reflection and a projection of your inner divine feminine. Like the highest version of your feminine energy is embodied in like it's this energy that's floating around in the 5D. And when we do connect on a soul level with another human, for like I'll speak for me and a person, right? My divine masculine energy that I've been cultivating, which are the parts of me that set my boundaries, that contain my emotions, that hold my inner
Mm.
child, that has unlocked the key for my inner child, and that created a life for my inner child to play. That divine masculine energy that is within me and outside of me can now like travel through the underground and rise up through the feet of a man and animate his form in alignment with his own values. His it has to resonate with his vessel. And how you're saying like if she chooses
Mm.
you, it's like that choice at a certain level, the physical attraction is it's beyond physical. We're physically attracted to people as a representation for our human eyes to see the soul level connection. And so physical attraction is important far beyond the physical aspects that most people like will stop at a very level of. It's a representation of a soul level resonance. And so when we do form a connection, if we're doing this in a healthy, conscious way, our divine masculine energy and like your divine feminine energy animates through other people. And that's where the like, if we're both able to hold and sustain each other's divine counterpart energy, which means like, I'll just say this for us, like if you're giving me that divine feminine energy, if that's in my system, can my nervous system hold that? Right?
Mm.
Like, does it fry me to match your divine feminine frequency as a man? And vice versa. Does
Mm.
my divine masculine energy even feel good in your body? And oftentimes we don't know this is going on. So we're basing these things off of like 3D. Oh, we both play sports. We both love to work out. We both love movies. And then after a while, we're like, but we have all these things in common. Why are like, where are these wires crossing?
Mm.
And oftentimes we're like frying each other's nervous system. And so when we both are able to hold and sustain each other's divine counterpart energy and daily, like consciously choose, I love that you use the word choice because it's so important, like using our free will, because we could both walk away at any time. If we both like cultivated that divine energy within us, we are happier alone than in an imbalanced connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but that the way that like the divine masculine energy has been I've been able to conceptualize it, seeing it take form in men around me. Because there are some men in my life where like I'll see them in stints because they need like a couple weeks away from me after a few close interactions. Because it's like they just
Mm-hmm.
get and
It's
then they
heavy.
have to like figure it out. And I used to make that mean something about myself, right?
Mm.
And that's where, like you were saying, we feel that need to close the loop. That was a code for me, by the way. Thank you for that. Because when we feel the need to close the loop and we fill it with something negative, with a story that's negative, it's like that story wasn't finished being written, or maybe it wasn't, but our nervous system couldn't hold and sustain the divinity, the
Mm.
potential divinity that could come from that connection, just allowing more beautiful love to be shared in whatever the highest form looks like in that connection. It really like clicked. And so our need sometimes to close that loop, to shut off, like our nervous system is getting fried. And so we're like, we have to turn this off. Where's the off switch? Okay, let me just completely rupture this connection. And then that also doesn't feel good either because it can spiral from there. But that was my 2 cents. It felt a little tangenty, but
Dude, that was like 2 million. That was crazy. What you just like you said so many powerful things. The one thing that really struck me was two things, right? Like where the manifestation of your masculine and my feminine will come to fruition. And if they can be contained mutually, then it will be a great relationship. And if you're not even conscious of that, like you said, you're just going to be looking at, okay, if she's hot, does she do the same things as me? Does she like me? Which sometimes it could be as simple as that,
Hmm.
but ultimately, like this is what's happening. And when you said that masculine side of you is creating a life for your inner child to play, like that is so deep. And if women could understand that that's how powerful that masculine energy is for them, that they can just use that to create a sort of lifestyle where that feminine can play. So that is the responsibility and the power that each woman has there. And I think for men, it's kind of like typically on average, it's a man has really high standards for himself. He wants to just be the best. He wants to always provide. And so he's never in a place where he can just let himself like take a break. And I could feel like that. Like if I wasn't in a relationship right now, I would probably just stay home all day and just work all day, go to the
Yeah.
gym, come back. Like that's my happy place because I feel like that's how I provide more value to the world. However, when you're in a relationship with a woman, what she does is she kind of softens you up just a bit so that you can then enjoy and play and let, I guess, your
Mhm.
feminine explore the world. And what I think a man brings is like creating some of that structure and some of those standards as well to say, yeah, sure, we can go out, but the next day we're going to sit down and we're going to get some work done. Okay. And it's like,
Mm.
okay,
And
cool.
me
And
as
that
a
feels
woman,
good
I'm
too.
just like, oh, yes, thank you.
And so I think it's like a two-way street where
Yeah.
I think if a man doesn't have those standards for himself and doesn't have that masculine side, he will become too soft. And then she'll be like, oh, like I don't respect this. Even though
I've been in those connections. Yeah.
she's
Hmm.
kind of the one that said, babe, no, take your day off. Let's just spend the whole day. Let's watch TV and eat ice cream. But you know, deep inside you as a man, you cannot do that. And you know, deep inside that she doesn't want that either.
Yeah.
She's testing you because a woman is constantly testing you. And sometimes the funny thing I do with my girl is like, because she gets it. Like if she's kind of saying something over and over again, I kind of do this thing where I'm just like, and then she
Oh,
knows and she starts laughing. And it's like, yes, like I'm
cute.
recognizing that you're trying to chip away at what this is, but you're not going to do that with me. You can't do
Mm.
it with me, you know?
And it's fun because like our higher selves, we use each other to test our own energy leaks. And that
Mm,
can, like that trickster energy can pin us against each other in those moments. It's like, because that may be unconscious for her, or in the even sometimes in those scenarios when we're like,
yes.
no, just call off of work, stay in bed with me all day. That's the version, like the other side of the coin in your mind that like wants to pull, and it's like you have to create that own your own polarity, but we use each other and that energy
Mhm.
animates through the other person to test our own boundaries, to test our own commitment to self, not in a testy way, but as mirrors to keep ourselves sharp and constantly evolving. And circling back to the moon, there's certain phases where energy like tests us in that way. Like from there's like a week before the full moon where there's like little subtle tests of, and not tests to like probe us, but to show us where our energy is leaking. And when we plug those leaks, we can evolve and ascend. And it's like we get a trial of those. And then a week after the full moon, right before the new moon, it's like they come in full blast and they're like, okay, you've gotten all these new codes, where's your energy leaking now? And it's like it pumps us full of these opportunities to see where our energy is leaking. And romantic connections are the first source because it's connected to our creativity, our creative life force. And
Mm.
so it's like the fastest route to evolve is within like romantic connections when we're using them as mirrors. It's also the fastest place to drain our energy too.
And I think it'd be nice to maybe kind of segue a little bit because there's a book that I've been reading by this guy named Mantak Chia. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him.
Mm.
He's this like he's this Thai teacher that works a lot with like Chi, Ching. It's like the Tao Te Ching, like this ancient Eastern wisdom. And I've read one of his books before, which was called The Multi-Orgasmic Male.
Mm.
First time I heard about this, the idea that
Mm.
a man can have an orgasm without ejaculation,
Mm.
I was like, wait, what? And so I started to explore that. And I'm reading one of his other books now, which talks about the power of like the containing of the sexual energy, especially for a man. And so one thing I want to say, maybe to the female audience, is like there's something powerful about when a man does not let that seed go, because there's a lot of, I mean, for both genders, there is so much energy within the seeds that I guess you can say dispose of for some guys.
Mm.
Um, maybe I'll speak to the guys first. Like, protect that seed. Do not waste that seed. Use that seed through Kundalini and through different breath work practices to cultivate it and bring it higher up within you. And if you can do that, then there's unlimited energy at the other
Yeah.
side of it. Like unlimited. I know what it feels like to waste it, and I know what it feels like to contain it. When you
Mhm.
contain it, there's this feeling that you get where that aura becomes like magnetic. That's what I felt where I'll be in a room, I could look like whatever, but there's kind of like this pull, and it's a very heavy feeling where when I first started to feel that I didn't know what to do with it. My nervous system wasn't used to it, but now if I want to turn it on, I can, and
Mhm.
it's really interesting to see. And so in this book, he talks about how there's different practices and how a man doesn't really know a woman. It takes like 7 year cycles for a man to get more intuitive. So there's a lot of value in just one man and one woman just getting really deep and understanding
Mhm.
them, because I think a lot of women fear a man getting bored with her, right? This is like a fear I hear a lot. Like, what if he leaves me? I mean, that's not the question. Like, what if you stop caring about your own growth? Like that, I think that's more important. And if
Mhm.
you are consistently looking to improve and to connect and to let the sides of you out that you really want to let out, that inner child, it's almost as if you're getting to know that person every single day and they're becoming something new every day. You want to get a haircut, you want to change something, change it. You want to go on a trip, like just follow that little kid that's telling you to go there. And that's fascinating for a man. And he'll never lose interest in you if you're like that. But if you always assume that he's going to find someone better and he's going to find someone more pretty or whatever, it's like, dude, we've already built this connection so strongly. You have to assume that he will never have this sort of connection again. There's a lot of power in that. And
Mhm.
so I think if a woman truly understands how amazing she is and how worth it she is and how like how valuable she is, and you just stop even having that thought into your mind, you're going to be so much better off. Because look, if he leaves, he leaves. It's not your soulmate if he didn't choose you. So that's a choice that we make every day, and that's what intimacy is for me.
Mhm.
And so it's a nice concept. I don't know. This is just something that I'm like really fascinated in, and um, I'm sure Kundalini is something similar to kind of like hone in that energy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and the practice of retention, thank you for bringing that up because I'm really passionate about that, but I can only talk about it so far, and men are only going to believe me so far. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up, especially on your own free will. And if you think about it logically, when that seed is expressed, you're fertilizing the world outside of you in whatever
Yes.
capacity, literally, or just fertilizing the agenda of something outside of you. When that's retained, and circulated. And that's Kundalini, right? It's this concept of,
Mhm.
and you even said it yourself, pulling that up to the higher chakras. And then once it sprouts out of our crown chakra, and then we have this eighth chakra, this protective dragon, I like to call it the dragon chakra, that energy flows up. And even during orgasm, like pulling and breathing up, because a lot of us don't breathe into our orgasms. We like hold our breath and we're just
Mhm.
experiencing it. When we breathe it up, first off, it's far more euphoric and ecstatic, and it pulls it up to these higher dimensional realms, pulls it up here, and then it starts to flow. And this is what creates that Merkaba field, because when it flows out like the fountain of youth, we
Mhm.
physically look younger, our skin is more plump and nourished, and this goes for men too, but it circulates that through and it comes back up through your channel. So you're fertilizing your own fertile field as a man. So you're more powerful, you
Like
have
that.
more creativity. And that's how you were saying you were noticing this like magnetism. It was like you activated your, I want to say feminine magnetism, but your masculine magnetism in that way, because you're fertilizing your own feminine energy within your body because you're keeping that force within and not extracting
Mhm.
it and losing it. And it makes sense too, because that, and again, I can't speak from experience, just from experience, but it's like you get depleted if you ejaculate and all of that energy. Like that is your actual life force energy. It also makes sense why porn is such a big thing and why so many men, why it's such a cool thing. Sorry to get vulgar with it, but like to just spray on things because that's what the forces that be with agendas outside of you want. They want you to deplete your life force energy, to have no power left, to be able to think in these higher realms and to have that next level euphoric pleasure. Because every single time, even beyond physical pleasure, the pleasure that comes from meeting your business goals having a business and a life that you're your own boss, you have total freedom. That is like, and then you pair that with a partner and you're having ecstatic euphoric sex, like that's the dream. And it's like,
Literally.
yeah. And then if you have a woman that's in her feminine and like you were saying, she has this childlike wonder of let's go here, let's go there. So now you're a man that has all this extra energy. You have all of this extra testosterone. You are doing the Lord's work in your business. You've got this butterfly that you're constantly trying to chase around the world. Nothing is lacking and nothing is missing. And that already is within us, even without all those physical things. But that practice of retention, it's not talked about enough. And it is so, so vital. And birth control. It's a no-brainer in that capacity. Because
It's yeah. I think there's so many good points. I don't talk about this much. I probably should start making some
I would
more
love to
videos
talk
about
about this
this.
more with you.
And we can. And I think
Yeah.
there I had a period in my life where I was not containing. I was doing the opposite. And I think it makes sense why, for example, porn is free and you can get any type. You can in a minute I can watch anything I want. There's a
Anything.
reason why chocolate and all these different sorts of foods that are horrible for you are so cheap. Like they're making it easy for a reason, guys. Like follow the clues. Why is it so easy for me to deplete my seed? But when you do the hard thing, when you withhold from eating that, let's say, junk food, and I don't even like to call it junk food, but when you withhold from doing something that's not so great for you temporarily and you have that delayed gratification, that energy, that euphoria is 24 hours a day.
Mm.
That feeling of like, oh my God, this is great is oh like I could look at snow and I'm like, wow. But
Yeah.
if I just was depleted, there is only so much that can stimulate me enough for me to have fun. And that
Mm-hmm.
childlike wonder and curiosity
Whoa.
is a trait that I need in a partner. It's essential because that's who I am. And I think a big part of that is that cultivation of that energy. And sometimes if it feels very like this needs to get out somehow, it's like breathe into it, let that pass. And it's such a fun practice. And honestly, like when I've been with women and I've made that decision not to just, you know, just let it all out, they say they can feel less than or they maybe get upset seemingly, but then when you're actually in the practice, they get it and they respect it so
Mm.
much more than if it just, you know.
And it's so funny how when you were saying like I got to get this out of me, that's the same thing we were talking about at the beginning again when we can see something that somebody else needs, that emotion or that emotion that's in us that must come out. It's that same like pressure to leave the body. The way that you explained it, like lit up my body the same way we were talking about the other things like emotions, that even bad emotions that want to transfer to other people. It like wants to come out and expel out of our body where it's much more served when we hold that in and not hold it in to suppress it. There's a line there, of course. And what you said about like when you're retaining and you've got the energy in you, how you can see snow and it lights you up. But when you're depleted, it's like it takes a lot more stimulation to even get that creative hit. And that like contain like that makes you feel numb and that just perpetuates. I'm really, really grateful that you shared that in that way. And what was the book you said that you read? Because I'll share that with my male viewers.
The multi-orgasmic man or male. He's guy's name is Montauk Chia. I should know what the book is I'm reading right now, and if you just give me a brief second, I'll find it. And it's so good. It's like you can call it esoteric, you can call it
Mm,
something. Okay, it's called Taoist Secrets of Love, Cultivating Male Sexual Energy.
beautiful.
And
And that
that's
talks through the
also
how, like the how of retention.
yeah, it tells
Okay.
you the importance of it, the how a lot of it has to do with the breathing practice. You spoke about breathing it up, but it's like when you understand the importance of like let's think of two wildly different examples. A powerful king who has a harem of any sort of woman that he could ever imagine, who is consistently, you know, for lack of a better word, just nutting all day.
Mhm.
He is probably going to die much sooner and he is going to have a much lower level of energy and decision making capabilities than the man that can freely express his sexual desires with possibly one his woman or whoever, but knows when to contain it and has control over that and doesn't feel the need to always quote unquote finish because again humans have this loop. where I'm starting, that's how we're finished. It's like, no, my friend, look to your woman. She will tell you when it's finished. And even when she's done, if you're not finished, well, you can feel that too. So that guy will live much longer, look much younger, have much more vitality. What is
Mhm.
vitality? Vitality is literally, if you look up the Latin prefix, it probably comes from something that has to do with sexual energy. I don't know. I'm just guessing,
Mhm.
but
Life
it's
force.
at the very least be conscious of it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that we landed there. And a book that I would recommend for the women watching this is Wild Power by I'm Alexandra something and Sanjay something. I'm not great with remembering authors of books, but I remember the name. That talks about it's like the intricacies of the cycle. Talks about the four
Mm,
inner seasons. There's like these chambers of the womb because when a woman bleeds, that basically what retention is, what you were talking about, like happens for men when a woman drops into her womb, that same thing happens. More vitality, she lives longer, more awareness. It's a protective layer, but it really gets into the details of the cycle and will bring a ton of awareness through the emotional waves that we process through just with that natural flow. And I'd be curious too, just as like a study, I just want to speak it out loud, but the retention practice in alignment with moon phases. Um, when the desire to release and when just maybe when the not the best or the most fruitful, but if there's a correlation there, right, between the
mm.
moon phase tugging on our energy and either the desire to or an optimal time um, for that. Not to structure it because that feels a little like planned. But I'm just curious. I'm always curious how the moon tugs on these types of things, special sexual, especially sexual energy.
There has to be something there. I'm sure there has to be something. I
Mm-hmm.
I think in many aspects we're more intelligent as humans now, but in many aspects we were more intelligent before. Just for the mere aspect that we have so many distractions now, phone, social media, whatever the case. But if we were just living, outside in a hut, right, and we had no distractions, and I got to just witness what you felt like, your energy felt like throughout the day, I would probably come up. I would probably have more pattern recognition
Mm-hmm.
to your female energy. You would have more pattern recognition to my masculine energy. Just generally speaking, as people, I think now kind of what we're doing is we're teaching people how to relearn those things that we already knew from before, but sometimes we just got to put things away and just feel. And I think people have this tendency whenever they feel bored, they just want to get distracted by something else. And every time you do that, you're just like buying another clothing item and just putting it in your closet. And your closet's so full. Whereas if you had three shirts, and two pairs of pants, you'd be able to make decisions so clearly. And no, these pants go on today, those pants go on tomorrow, as opposed to like, oh, there's so many things I don't even know. So I
Mm-hmm.
think simplicity is the ultimate form of intelligence. And the more we can simplify things by, getting deeper on these concepts, but ultimately just thinking like, okay, if you're more of a masculine dude, like just do more masculine things, feel more like a man, and you feel more like a woman, chances are you're going to meet your reciprocal
Mm-hmm.
partner. As simple as that sounds, and
Right.
hold your seed and just know that you have the potential to tap into the unlimited energy, whether that comes from the moon, the sun, or everything, the ground. Like just follow nature, period. That's how I live. And I think all the books that I've read and everything kind of goes back to that. Just the old philosophy books, the Eastern knowledge, people that I find in my life that are the happiest, they don't go against nature. They just follow it. If they don't feel like doing something, they don't really push too much past the resistance. They just let their intuition guide them in
Mm.
that path.
So beautifully said. This was awesome. This was really, really cool.
It was.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for reaching out.
Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for having the time after too. I really love that we were able to dive in deeper because there was a lot of fun stuff that came up in this last hour. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this. And we'll let this air and see what questions come up. And maybe, in a little while we can meet again and touch back on some of these topics
100%.
or dive in more because there's a lot. I have so many other things that didn't even come up that reflected off of what you were saying. It was just really, really good stuff. So thank you for your wisdom and whatever led you down your path to this moment. Thank you for all the stuff that it took to get here, because I know it's not easy. So just thank you for doing the work and for showing up and being here.
Thank you, Megan. I had such a blast. There's so many notes that I have here. My ADHD mind is just like jumping all around, and I can't wait to explore these. And yeah, we could definitely talk for like 10 hours. And I think that's the beauty and just that curiosity that we both have. So
Mhm.
congratulations for all the things that you've achieved. Congratulations for who you are. Like
Mm.
you are so I feel so comfortable. I could feel your energy is like one that you're comfortable in. So I know you have a big impact on a lot of people in your life. So keep up the good work. And I'm always here in case you need anything.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. I look forward to sharing this first off and connecting again down the road.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Adios.
Bye, friend.